tonight.
Are you kidding? I don't think you have the authority to do this.
A woman who claimed she was assaulted after shoplifting in 2021 is now the one found guilty of assault by a Saskatoon judge. Also, 19 years later, the community holds on to hope that Tamara Kepnes will be found while grieving her mother's sudden death. Plus, after leaving Syria with a suitcase full of dreams 40 years ago, a Saskatoon cardiologist is receiving one of Canada's highest civilian honors.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, July 5th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. A woman who got into a fight with a security guard outside a Saskatoon grocery store has been found guilty of theft and assault. The altercation was captured on video and made national news. The woman claimed she was assaulted, but as Dan Zakreski reports, the judge reached a different conclusion.
Somebody help!
It's a difficult video to watch. Annette Custer wrestling with store security in the parking lot outside the FreshCo grocery store on 33rd Street in Saskatoon. As the loss prevention officer tries to detain her, she punches the officer, then fights with him in her car. Custer was eventually subdued, arrested, and charged with assault and theft. The video of the altercation sparked outrage, with Indigenous leaders alleging racism. Custer's lawyer tried to get the case thrown out. He said the security guard used excessive and unnecessary force and that she hit him in self-defense. The judge at her trial disagreed. Doug Agnew said that the loss prevention officer was entitled to use as much force as was reasonably necessary to arrest Custer, that she hit the store guard because she was trying to get away. And the amount of force which the security guard used verged on being insufficient to accomplish the legal ends of effecting the arrest, detention, and handing over of Ms. Custer. The judge concluded that Annette Custer went to this store to steal food. She got caught, and then she assaulted the store security officer who held her until police arrived. Custer returns to court in September for sentencing. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
It was 19 years ago today that 5-year-old Tamara Kepnes disappeared from her Regina home. This year's anniversary barbecue was even more somber, as it was the first one since Tamara's mother, Regina Kepnes, died in May. Some members of the Kepnes family joined Regina police officers and the community to remind people that the search for Tamara continues. Cowessess First Nation Chief Erica Bowden says the family still holds on to hope that Tamara will be found. Bowden says the family is grieving Tamara's mother, who died suddenly at the age of 49. She says Regina was a complex, beautiful spirit who was haunted by her daughter's disappearance.
There was very unfair bias by media, as well as the police and others, child welfare system, the systems, that she was somehow involved in Tamara going missing. From her being responsible for her going missing to the point where she was a negligent mother. And that was held against her for the rest of her life.
Bowden says Tamara's siblings will continue to draw attention to the cold case. The Regina Police Service is offering a $50,000 reward for any information leading to Tamara's whereabouts. More than 300 faculty members and students have signed a petition demanding the University of Regina president request emergency funding from the province. The letter says budget shortfalls are being passed on to students through tuition hikes. Over the past 10 years, summer students have seen tuition jump by 55% or $1,500 a semester. Most tuition and fees will increase by another 4% in the fall.
Increasing the tuition isn't sustainable enough for long term. Like, you might get students and you might get new students who pay the current tuition fee, but in the long term, for the same fee, you could be studying at different universities too. Plus, for the fee you pay, you don't get the quality education too.
Petition organizers say staff positions are being cut or consolidated. An emailed statement from the university said the president will invite the faculty and students to meet with him. A spokesperson also said the U of R is in constant communication with the provincial government regarding funding. A close vote at Regina City Hall today brings the city one step closer to allowing drinking alcohol in 12 public parks. Executive Committee voted 6-4 to approve the bylaw changes. Earlier this year, the province changed the legislation to give municipalities the power to do so. The tight vote saw councillors weigh in on both sides of the topic.
Just because the province has done something, that doesn't mean we have to follow. We have more issues or more things that we should be looking into or looking after than creating more problems.
There's nothing wrong with a little bit of responsible fun, and this program, as carefully designed by the administration, permits just that.
If the change is supported at next week's City Council meeting, Regina residents could be drinking in city parks by the end of July, but that won't include Wascana Park as it falls under Provincial Capital Commission jurisdiction. The PCC tells CBC there's no timeline on when a decision could be made about allowing alcohol at that location. Also at Executive Committee today, more on Regina Exhibition Association Limited's debt situation. Real says it is restructuring its debt as it looks to become financially sustainable. The organization runs the exhibition grounds, Mosaic Stadium, Brand Centre and Tourism Regina. It suffered through the pandemic and says without the city's help, it is at risk of not being able to honour its debts. Executive Committee heard today how Real is going to get back in the black. It's recently taken on a $3.4 million loan, and it's also made $1.5 million in savings from cuts, including to staffing. A Saskatoon cardiologist has been appointed to the Order of Canada. Nearly 40 years ago, Hassam Haddad arrived in this country from Syria with a suitcase full of dreams. He didn't speak English, and his medical qualifications, they weren't recognized. Aishwarya Duda spoke to him about his remarkable journey.
It was Hassam Haddad's persistence and drive that made him a cardiologist, a professor, and the provincial head of the Department of Medicine at Royal University Hospital. Still, he says he was shocked when he got the call for an Order of Canada.
He asked me if I would accept this award. I said, "You're asking me? Did anyone before reject this kind of award?" So I do appreciate it. I'm overwhelmed, to be honest with you.
Haddad calls Canada the land of opportunity, but he says getting to where he is today was challenging.
When I came to Canada 37 years ago, I couldn't speak any English, zero. And I studied medicine in Arabic, and Arabic is totally different from English or French. So really, the likelihood for me to be successful in medicine in 87 was almost close to 0%.
When he first immigrated to Canada from Syria, Haddad's medical qualifications weren't recognized. He worked at a laundromat to pay the bills while he learned English and did unpaid research.
My story is very unique. I have too many friends who came to Canada who were doctors in their country in the same time, and they end up working in Tim Horton or Starbucks or Pizza Hut or taxi driver.
Haddad eventually landed an internship at Dalhousie University. He went on to complete his cardiology training and worked at the national level to develop guidelines for heart transplants. He still remembers how he was taunted by physicians who told him to open a grocery store or go back to his country.
I think I'm proud of not giving up, because I had too many moments where I felt very down to the degree anyone can give up. But every time I felt I'm down, I started again and said I could do it.
Haddad says there's still a lot he wants to contribute to medicine and to Canada. He hopes other people who immigrate here can be inspired by his story and follow their dreams. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Summer road trips have begun, but if you're an electric vehicle driver, hitting the highway can be a challenge. As Pratush Dayal reports, the lack of charging stations can hurt tourism.
So every day when I drive home, I just plug it in.
Glenn Wright was one of the first registered electric vehicle owners in Saskatchewan. For years, he has used it for his half-hour commute to Saskatoon.
Most people are thinking about, doing their long trips, and so they want to see more charging infrastructure available. before they're going to be comfortable driving an EV.
Wright says presently Highway 1 and Highway 16 are the only two well-serviced routes in Saskatchewan. Elsewhere, infrastructure is unreliable or non-existent.
People are really wanting to have a more direct route from Saskatoon to Calgary. So the number, I think it's the number 7 and number 14 highways going west from Saskatoon. There isn't a lot of charging infrastructure there to help support you.
Wright says it's hard to find level 3 chargers or Tesla superchargers that can charge a vehicle in an hour. There are level 2 chargers on some highways, but they take up to 9 hours for a full charge. Some central and northern communities are starting to address the need for charging stations to make the regions tourist-friendly. The town of Nipawin was going to install 3 of these EV charging stations. They even got federal money for it, but met with resistance from people who felt it should be a private venture. The town's chief administrative officer says killing the project would close off the town from some tourists. EV travelers agree.
The biggest pike I've ever caught was right at the dam in Nipawin. It was a monster. Yeah, I'm probably not going to go there again until there's charging infrastructure.
I think I'll just spend my tourism dollars elsewhere in more progressive communities.
Wright, who is a former candidate for the NDP and Green Party, says Sask Power should follow Hydro BC's example and install EV infrastructure. Sask Power says it has no plans to do so.
There's no doubt in my mind that Saskatchewan is far behind other provinces in terms of developing our charging infrastructure.
EV travelers say better infrastructure would boost tourism and cut down on emissions. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
It has been 363 days since Rider fans and players celebrated a win at Mosaic Stadium. Going back to last season, the team has lost 7 straight regular season home games. Its last win, July 8th, against the Ottawa Red Blacks. Tomorrow night, the Riders get a chance to stop the skid against Edmonton. Head coach Craig Dickinson says the streak has been discussed, but it's not a focus for the team.
We've talked a little bit about taking care of business at home. I haven't specifically mentioned how long it's been because I don't want to put pressure on the guys. I mean, they know it's a big game. Edmonton knows it's a big game for them as well. So we've worked really hard this week to focus on just improving, to focus on having good days of practice, a day 1, day 2, day 3. But I think for the veteran guys, they know it's been a while, and there's really nothing like walking off that field victorious. And we hope to be there tomorrow. But it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be a tough game.
The Rough Riders' home losing streak is nothing compared to what Edmonton is currently in the middle of. The Elks have lost 19 in a row and counting at Commonwealth Stadium dating back to 2019. That is one CFL record you do not want to hold. It was a perfect day to check out the farmers market in Regina or to be out and about in Victoria Park. Looks like after yesterday's blip of cooler weather, the heat is making its way back for the weekend. Ethan will have the forecast for the rest of the week after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Our weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now. I hear some areas got hit with the F word yesterday.
Yeah, get the sensors ready. Here we go. Frost in some portions of the province indeed last night. And not only that, we also set some low temperature records just above freezing in Broadview overnight last night, smashing a temperature record by 3 degrees there. Prince Albert tied a 119-year-old record and lots of old records through Indian Head, Moose Jaw, and the Battlefords. Interestingly enough, we were more worried about central Saskatchewan through the northern grain belt with the cold temperatures, but southern Saskatchewan, we picked up on that as well. But that was an anomaly because we got the stats for temperatures through the month of June, and a lot of stations, almost all of them that Environment Canada monitors, were in the top 5 warmest Junes that we've ever had, including Regina and Saskatoon, 4th and 3rd warmest respectively in about 130 years of record keeping. And the north, very warm as well. Key Lake and La Ronge actually had its warmest in 57 years. And keep in mind, these two places also had one of their warmest Mays as well on record this year, too. So 2 months in a row of some pretty record-setting temperatures and trends in that part of the province. Rainfall, of course, a little more sporadic just because of the storms that we saw or didn't see in certain areas. More than 100% of moisture in Prince Albert, Key Lake, and especially Regina. All that underpass flooding, and we just got over our 100% of average moisture, but southeastern and southwestern Saskatchewan very, very dry, and that continues. We're seeing temperatures today not quite as warm as they were throughout the month of June, but rebounding definitely from yesterday, sitting in those mid-20s in western sections of the province. Still a little bit cool on the eastern side of the province, close to 20 degrees there right now. Now in northern Saskatchewan, we're seeing a little bit of shower and thunderstorm activity, likely continuing tonight as this cold front from this low pressure center drops through, but that should be out of our hair tomorrow. And then it's south and central Saskatchewan. A little bit of low pressure provides some instability for some showers and thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon. We will likely see that die off through the evening hours, though. We're not really expecting things to get all that severe. And then another area of high pressure slides in, and that will clear us out as we head into Friday. And again, the risk tomorrow, minor at most. We could see a couple of cells become stronger in nature, and that could bring us some stronger wind gusts, pea to loony-sized hail, and some locally heavy downpours, but we're really not expecting all that much in terms of storm development, and winds not going to be all that strong really either as we head through the day tomorrow. Could pick up a little bit in the evening in southern Saskatchewan, but again, as we head through Friday, you can see that area of high pressure beginning to move in. Gusts close to 40 on the eastern side of the province, but really not all that bad. Regina, again, chance of storms tomorrow, and then after that, things definitely clearing out with the high pressure. We'll keep an eye on storms for the Rider game, of course. And the weekend actually looking quite pleasant. Temperatures just above normal. Getting into next week, we will get close to 30 degrees, maybe a little bit of humidity making that feel into the low 30s. And getting a little bit breezy too. Saskatoon, again, chance of showers throughout the afternoon tomorrow, and then a little bit cooler on Friday before that warm-up progresses through the weekend. Temperatures going to be rising, as I mentioned, overnight as well. A little bit breezy on Tuesday. Overall, near normal, but I think that July heat, Sam, is yet to come. We'll watch out for that.
And maybe some rain gear planned for tomorrow.
Yes, take it just in case.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Well, speaking of football, it was a great day today for football. Some of the best high school football players in Western Canada have converged in Regina. Football Canada has its U16 Western Challenge tournament at Libel Field. This afternoon, BC took on Alberta with the hosts from Saskatchewan, welcoming Manitoba tonight at 7 o'clock at Libel Field. The tournament ends Saturday afternoon. We'll be back after the break. The federal government's much-touted grocery rebate is going to 11 million low and modest income Canadians and households starting today. It's a one-time payment billed as relief for high food costs due to inflation. Recipients say every penny counts. But as Karina Roman reports, they also say it's very temporary relief.
It's next to impossible to shop for your family, pay rent, daycare.
Any little bit of money in right now makes a difference for sure. I mean, I've been shopping so carefully and paying attention to prices for so long.
Recipients of today's grocery rebate welcome it, but many say the one-time supplement is not a long-term solution.
People are using the food banks. People are finding themselves in such a tight financial place that they are resorting to food banks to put food on the table and to feed their kids each and every day. Scary.
Eligibility is based on a household's income from 2021 and on the family composition as of January this year. So, a single person with no children could get a maximum payment of up to $234, or a couple with 2 children up to $467. Low-income seniors will see a rebate of up to $225.
Now, I know that will not make up for all of the impact of inflation that Canadians have felt. But for those who need help the most, the grocery rebate will provide some important breathing space at a time when people really need it.
Inflation dropped to 3.4% in May, but the food inflation rate remains stubbornly high at more than 8%. The NDP continues to push the government to go after the big grocery chains with an excess profit tax.
Inflation is being used as a cover to increase their profit margins.
The Conservatives blame Liberal government deficits for inflation, and they are calling for cutting the carbon tax to bring prices down. Karina Roman, CBC News, Ottawa.
The federal government says it's going to stop advertising on Facebook and Instagram. That comes after parent company Meta says it plans to block Canadian news content on the platforms. Meta was responding to Parliament's recently passed Online News Act. It says tech giants should pay Canadian media outlets in exchange for using their content. Rafi Boudjikanian reports.
After Google and Meta dug in their heels, a show of force from the federal government.
They can be intimidating, but are we going to let ourselves be intimidated?
Some $10 million in public money a year gone for Meta, the company running Facebook and Instagram. The latest salvo in an ongoing escalation since the government passed Bill C-18 last month with support from the opposition NDP and Bloc Québécois. The Online News Act would force Google and Meta to pay news organizations like the CBC every time a user lands on a news story online through using their services. Both have threatened to pull Canadian news links off their pages.
We're continuing constructive conversations with Google. Unfortunately, Facebook has just refused to recognize any sort of responsibility it might have.
Une personne sur deux au Québec ne verra plus les nouvelles.
And others are acting too. Cogeco, one of two media players in Quebec today to announce it is also pulling ads from Meta.
When you think about the whole industry, in Canada, it's 80% of digital revenue goes to Google and Meta. So, I mean, there must be some money for us.
The government's had warnings that tech giants would not play ball with the law, both from the companies themselves and from the federal Conservatives.
Google and Meta, otherwise known as Facebook and Instagram, have responded. And as a result, it's Canadians who have gotten harmed in the crossfire.
With Google saying it's willing to talk to the government about pending regulations, some observers have hope and questions.
What would a sharing kind of agreement look like? How can this really benefit, Canadian journalism? How can we strengthen, journalistic practice in Canada?
Showing just how hard it may be to get a snowball effect going, Trudeau's own political party, the Liberals, are not cutting ads on Facebook. Meta's revenues last year alone exceeded $116 billion, and so far it's given no indication it will change course on blocking Canadian news. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
And we are starting sunny tomorrow in Regina and southern Saskatchewan. Nice 16 degrees. Southwest winds fairly light tomorrow, around 23. Those will be picking up a little bit as we head toward the afternoon, but just not by much. We're looking for sunny skies, 25, a nice noon hour. Keep in mind, chance of some afternoon storms. Those are likely going to be non-severe in nature. Very similar for Saskatoon as well. 15 tomorrow morning. Nice light winds to start your day. And then as you head toward the noon hour again, that's where we could see a few thunderstorms, non-severe for you as well. Now, if you are heading to the Rider game tomorrow, kickoff between the Elks is at 7 o'clock, and we're looking for things to stay pretty much where they were at noon. Mostly sunny, 25 degrees. Winds picking up a little bit, though. And, of course, Sam, you might want to bring some rain gear just in case those storms linger into the evening.
And you'll be there as well tomorrow,
yes,
bringing us our weather. I hear Elks are afraid of thunder and lightning, so maybe that'll help the Riders out.
Yes, I think we have some pretty good chances.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/Sask, or you can subscribe to our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. Ethan and I will be back with more local news and weather at 11. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.